Hi guys, welcome to Office Blokes React. I'm Office Bloke Dave.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
I'm Office Bloke Daz.
Together we are going to learn today.
Oh yeah, I learn every day.
Every day is a learning opportunity,
Yep.
isn't it?
Right,
Correct.
yeah.
That hurt, I'm not going to do that again. That's just
You
it.
do learn something new every day, don't you? It's a fact.
I can
Hopefully.
make Mike jump just by standing, waiting for him to finish talking to somebody.
Yeah.
Really?
It's easy, yeah.
Shit himself. Who else are you expecting to see in the office? I'm just sort of like leaning on the door, and he just turns around and goes, "Bullshit!"
Not literally, may I add. Let me just clarify the situation.
Well, we didn't check that, so
Fair play.
Unbelievable.
Play. The origins of American gun culture.
okay.
Right, okay.
Texas.
Yeah.
I mean,
A bit of Wild Western age, you think?
I presume
I was
so.
brought up
I
on
mean,
Western
yeah.
movies and stuff like that, so...
I think mass production to a degree was sort of pioneered by gun culture. I think it was Colt or someone like that had one of the first mass production factories.
I'm guessing it's something to do with sort of like kicking the British out and things like that, where all the people are armed and...
It could
you know,
be
it's part of like a defensive,
once they
thing
got
for the country.
once they kicked us out, they said we need to now have better guns in case they
Maybe.
come back.
Yeah, maybe.
And started developing the technology a bit. We never came back, so it's fine.
We'll
we will
do for
now.
holiday.
We will.
You're on holiday.
Waiting for the right time.
Yeah, we are just biding our time.
We'll be back.
The origins of American gun culture. Let's check it out.
If you look at all the maps of the Spanish Empire you can find, you will notice that the Spaniards claimed far more land than they actually had, claims that were sometimes outright ridiculous, costly, and completely unenforceable. However, in North America, not only did they claim more than they actually had, but being that they were the first to colonize the American continents, one has to wonder why they failed at enforcing all their claims. Claims that stretched from Alabama to Minnesota to Alaska and even to Hawaii, over a total of what are today 27 US states. Guns and property is the short answer. The Spanish came to the New World to conquer existing societies, build new societies, and mold it all into their global empire. Unlike the Dutch, British, and French, who mainly had financial interests, the Spanish idea of empire had more in common with how the Romans built empires. They wished to export the Spanish way of life, assimilate conquered people into their society, and enforce a Spanish social structure upon their subjects. And part of Spanish colonial life was that the colonials were strictly forbidden from owning firearms. Colonial subjects didn't own firearms or even property, but were mostly day laborers on plantations and mining complexes owned by corporate interests like the Basque Guipuzcoan Trading Company. When Spain came to the New World, it encountered large native kingdoms such as the Aztecs, so Spain brought an army and conquered them. But when the Spaniards encountered nomadic native nations in places like Chile, Texas, Venezuela, and New Mexico, they ran into trouble. You can conquer Tenochtitlan, but how do you conquer a constantly moving group of peoples not dependent on one particular spot of land? The Spaniards encountered the same nomadic warfare that bested the Romans, Russians, and Chinese before them, and since they banned their citizens from owning firearms, the only way a semblance of security could be established was by an expensive military presence. In short, it was only safe to live where the Spanish crown stationed troops. Elsewhere, well, not so much. Caracas was burned down by a native warband when it was ungarrisoned by the Spanish army. The Spaniards fought an almost 300-year-long war with the Apaches, Suma, and Mansu throughout northern Mexico, Texas, Nevada, and New Mexico. And unlike the wars we know from popular culture involving the Americans from much later, the Spaniards lost. Ranches were burnt to the ground, mines destroyed, and entire towns pillaged and burnt. The Spanish army was hopelessly lost in this vast region, perfect for ambushes and hit-and-run attacks. Spanish settlers were barred from owning any firearms or form militias to defend themselves. Whatever expedition pushed further north and to the east didn't fare any better. Spanish expeditions sent to explore and settle Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi just disappeared, and presumably because they were wiped out by the Cherokee. Then, in the 1600s, the Spaniards started executing Pueblo shamans for sorcery and witchcraft. The Pueblo, who were a settled people, rebelled and kicked the Spaniards out of Santa Fe and the Rio Grande Valley, restricting Spanish activity to southern Texas and California from then on. The Spanish colonial social order didn't allow for a successful settling of this area, as it was unequipped to conquer and assimilate nomadic natives or patrol the vast lands.
But we weren't wrong in it. We allowed them to have guns, and then they went, "Oi, get out!" And we went, "Oh,
You've got a gun.
Moving out of Spain. It's not working for me in all these Spanish.
Hey?
yeah." Imagine so these settlers, they'll say, "Go that way a few hundred miles and settle." You're not allowed guns though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially when everyone else has got guns.
Yeah, no wonder
just
they all
picking them off.
disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The British had a completely different colonial policy. They explicitly encouraged their colonial subjects to own firearms. More than that, they handed out the land they had taken from the natives to settlers. And that land, aka property, is the reason why most of these settlers came in the first place. Europe was a mess of large landowners, serfdom, high grain taxes, and famines. Political rights, if existent at all, were also tied to how much property a person owned. Having a plot of land that was your own was a prospect irresistible to many, and irresistible to the British Crown was what these settlers would do on that property. Buy slaves, grow cash crops, sell them to British trading companies, and thereby increase the wealth of the empire. And the British also allowed the means of defending that property. The settlers would be personally invested in their colonial property and thereby the colonial economy. The British would profit, not have to spend money on an expensive large standing army, could invest in a large navy to bully others, and the armed colonials would take care of the French, natives and Spaniards because they weren't just protecting the empire but their own property. The mistake the British made in the end was assuming that this colonial strategy wouldn't backfire. The colonial policy of handing out the land and permitting the ownership of guns for settlers is one the British practiced in every colony they settled, which is why all these countries have less constraining laws on private gun ownership to this day, except for those who in modern days introduced gun control laws. The United States, however, is different from the other colonies. Guns and the gun culture that developed became tied to property. The reason one owned a gun was to protect what was yours or what you had taken from others. It became essential to the promise of the country to those who came to it, but also part of its darkest chapters. As much as you may read or hear of the American gun culture as something tied to a violent history, racism, hunting, frontier life or other, and as much as you might hear debates by legal scholars and politicians theorize the modern and past meanings of the Second Amendment, the truth of the matter is that this country's gun culture developed out of and goes hand in hand with the promise of owning your own property and being permitted to defend what is yours. And that is a powerful drive that is hard to break. German and French gun culture revolved around having guns to kill each other. Polish gun culture revolves around being prepared for invasion. Same with Swiss gun culture. And as Europe increasingly became a more peaceful place, these gun cultures, and with them the ownership of guns, eroded or were drastically changed and reinvented. The United States have barely enacted any regulations to limit ownership of firearms, even when a sizable amount of the population used said firearms in an armed insurrection to keep slavery legal. If the Americans didn't restrict firearms ownership after they were used in an attempt to keep slavery legal, I doubt they will do so now after massacres and increased gun crime. There is, however, one thing that is steadily undermining the United States gun culture and might eventually be its undoing, something that is largely unnoticed in the modern gun debate. Ownership of private property is on the decline. And with the American gun culture being so deeply tied to property rights, what is most likely to in the end change the legal landscape on firearms in the United States is the change of American society itself from property owners into indebted, rent-paying day laborers.
So he's saying it came full circle to the way the Spanish wanted to do it.
Go back to that grid again, Dave. There.
It seems weird to think that it's completely linked to property nowadays. Maybe it was when you had to defend your land.
Sounds like it,
But-
because people going over and nicking people's property, weren't
Yeah,
they? And,
yeah,
but
forcibly taking off them. So
With a
doesn't
modern
really happen
police
now.
force and stuff, that's kind of covered. So people own guns because they like them or they want to protect the family or like.
Yeah, it's a protection thing, isn't it? I think,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's one of the subjects about gun laws. When you get in touch with the USA, for me, it's not my fight. I'm not asked.
yeah,
Let them decide what they want to do, and it's nothing to do with me.
yeah.
I think a lot of people do it because they enjoy it, though.
I think it's
You know,
both sides of it. I think there's a lot
yeah.
of people who do use it as like a sport. You know, I shot some guns in Alabama, And it was used. The people who were showing me, it's a hobby for them.
Yeah,
You know,
it's like going fishing. For some people.
One of the guys, it was his job. He was a gunsmith.
Yeah, I mean, part of the Constitution is a right to bear arms, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
So obviously, nobody wants to change that. There's a huge gun lobby anyway, isn't there? So no one will ever try and change that completely anyway, will they? So
if it's not guns, it'll be something else. The criminals are going to use it. If it's the people who are causing the crimes, they're going to use something else.
Yeah.
Whether it be a gun, a knife, chemicals, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I think the horse has bolted in the States in terms of gun control because there's more guns than people, significantly more.
I don't know about gun control, like gun ownership. I think it has.
I think they can tighten things up in certain states
Yeah.
and things. I think that can happen, but it's that ingrained and there's that much of it and that many unregistered firearms, I guess, that people have had for forever.
Maybe. Yeah.
But I'd be interested to see, because he's saying the home ownership is declining, but is the gun ownership declining alongside that graph?
That's why I said go back, because it doesn't show that, does it?
Yeah.
No, I don't think he
that's
actually touched on that stat.
No, didn't.
He's kind of using home ownership as a metric that it isn't really intended for.
Yeah. You wouldn't have thought, like you say, you wouldn't have thought that owning a house would be a reason for owning a firearm.
No, because
these
regardless
days.
of whether you're still living somewhere, it's still your property, even if you don't own it.
If
Yeah.
you're renting
Yeah,
a
true,
house,
yeah.
you're still
your
gonna want to
property.
protect
I think
it.
it's more
exactly.
protecting yourself, isn't it, rather than your property. No one's going to come and steal your house these
No.
days. It's
No.
the contents and yourselves and your family, isn't it, that you're trying to protect. So
Gun ownership statistics in America. I just want to see a graph to see if it's on the rise, the decline.
I would imagine it's on the rise.
That's what I think as well, to be fair. Especially
Just with the modern era of what we live in now.
yeah,
You know,
I think even with these mass shootings, it probably prompts more people to actually want to own a gun for protection than actually get rid of them. I would think as well.
I think,
But-
like I say, I mean, I think the mass shootings compared to gun ownership probably, okay, they're obviously connected because you're not going to have a mass shooting without gun ownership. But I think it's one of them as well where the media just blows it so out of proportion about what it's about. You know, we have major issues with stabbings over here.
Yeah.
It's crazy out of control.
Yeah.
But you don't hear much about them because they try to brush it under the carpet because it's a fucking crazy stat. You know, I know, but I don't go around carrying a knife.
No,
You know,
no, get that.
it's one, but I don't know, but I know from the stats the police show that the percentage of people carrying knives is staggering.
Yeah.
I carry a penknife everywhere,
You do?
but it's legal. It's like a little folding, non-locking, just a little less than 3-inch blade. They're legal, perfectly fine.
What do you carry that for?
You always need one opening boxes, just anything.
Always need one.
You do. It's like
Well, you know what, mate? I've got through all my whole life with not carrying one. I'm a little bit older than you, and I've gone through a whole life.
it's one of those things that if you did, it's like a little Swiss Army knife style that they're perfectly fine, useful for loads of different.
But you'd
things.
also carry a gun if we're allowed to.
if I was legally allowed to, yeah, absolutely.
because you always need one.
No,
Same premise. What would you carry a gun for?
no. There was a story one of my mates told me years ago.
Dave's one of them that'd have like rifles to his back and all that. Like one guy you see in the movies.
All the bullets
He's-
strapped over his
it'd be Johnny Rambo, wouldn't it? Hey.
It's not relevant to this country as such, but it's like an example of where they can be useful. Is a ski resort a few years back. One of my mates was there with his dad, and a guy got a bit of his clothing caught in the chairlift when he was coming off, and was basically going to get dragged round and potentially really hurt. And his dad just whipped out a penknife and just cut the bit of clothing, and it's done. And it's
Was he in Switzerland?
It wasn't Switzerland, no.
I was going to ask you, was it a Swiss Army knife?
No, it was in
To fit
France.
okay.
No, I think it's perfectly legal and allowed to have a penknife. There's literally laws allowing you to do it in this country, and it's non-locking, short blade, and for that reason they're not deemed dangerous because if you try to do anything nefarious with it, it's going to close and hurt you.
Right.
I think it's pretty normal, really, but it's like it's the lunatics going around with kitchen knives and
I see. one the other
zombie
day.
knives they call them.
Yeah,
and all
zombie
that sort of
knives.
stuff.
I saw some people fighting with them in the street the other day. Like,
Yeah.
Not, I didn't see them up close and personal. I saw it on the news or one of the
Yeah.
TV channels, and I was like, "What's going on?" That's to me. That's a bigger issue. Our people should be worried about. Is what's
It's
going on
huge,
over here?
Over here, absolutely, yeah.
Get
No,
ourselves in
without a
order first. Don't worry about what anyone else is fucking about with.
doubt. Yeah.
Yeah?
I've been brought up with a penknife though since I was about 7. I've always had
Get to
one.
bed, you little shit. Okay, Dad.
It's just been normal. Like a lot of camping and outdoors sort of stuff as well dictates it. Even when you're in the Cubs, they tell you have to bring a Swiss Army knife all the time.
In case the Scoutmaster gets you.
Self-defence, that is, isn't it?
the weirdest one.
Don't touch me there.
Yeah, there, yeah. What there, though?
Slower.
Soap it up a bit.
No, the weirdest one that I was talking about this weekend is, I'm sure they must have stopped this because there's no way parents would allow it. But when I used to be I think I went to Beavers, not Cubs, or one of them.
Ain't that the girls' one?
No. Oh, no. That's rough.
It's going too far, this now.
It is. But they actually said you've got to bring a Swiss Army knife with you, you've got to bring 50p for a payphone, and this
A condom.
It is actually...
Wear a book in your undies, mate.
It was a condom.
Oh, man.
I'm not even joking.
Really?
And I was talking about
You fell for it.
I
don't want to talk about it anymore.
I was talking about it this weekend, so I was like, there's no way in a million years any parent would let that happen. But it holds 2 litres of water for a survival situation. That's what they said.
How do you know?
Fell for that one, didn't he?
Everyone did it.
Everyone, what? You were the scout leader. It was everyone that was there.
Every kid that was there, like 30
Me,
kids,
the priest.
all had to bring the same stuff every week. I think it's fucked up as well. I think it's well bizarre. There's no way I'd send my kids with that sort of stuff. But seriously,
Maybe some sort of plastic bottle that holds 2 litres of water.
with the
Camped
scandals,
out next to the spa.
with the scandals that have happened in the last few years, there's no way they are getting people to bring that sort of stuff now.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That
bizarre.
escalated, didn't it?
It really did. That's what I was talking about this week.
That's why you need a gun, Dave.
Ridiculous.
I don't know what we're talking about now.
Finish
Gun
the
laws.
route.
And now we've talked about pedos all.
We're not finished.
Man.
Is there more? I thought the video had finished.
Most likely to, in the end, change the legal landscape on firearms in the United States is the change of American society itself, from property owners into indebted, rent-paying day laborers.
Yeah, I think it was done.
Oh, right.
I think
I thought it finished as well, actually.
I think that was a little bit agenda-y.
Yeah,
think
I
the
think
person
maybe,
who's
yeah,
made it has
yeah.
got their
Yeah.
opinions.
I think anyone, when you talk about gun culture, just let people decide what they vote on. If it's a majority vote, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's the democracy, isn't it? That's how it works.
Well, it's a democracy, that's it. And then you go with the flow,
Yeah.
the will of the people.
If you're
in the end,
anti-guns,
so-
move out the state that's pro-guns.
Yeah.
Go and live
Yeah.
somewhere else. You're allowed to.
Yeah.
Democracy is a little bit of a myth, isn't it?
Now,
Do you know what I
nowadays,
think?
it's
I
changing
know
a
what
little
you
bit
mean, but
nowadays. Yeah.
It's something else I was talking about this weekend. I don't smoke weed. I used to, but I don't. And I've got no interest in doing it again. But of adults, like grown adults in this country, it's something like 80% of them have either smoked weed or do smoke weed. If it was a democracy, it'd be legal. Because the vast majority of people would be like, yeah, I've not got an issue with it.
Yeah,
People
most
should be
people-
allowed to do
Most
it.
people don't care, do they,
Yeah,
really?
but when the government go, no, we're never going to legalise it, that's not democracy. That's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's a dictatorship.
Yeah, but it's also a substance that impairs you. So it's one of them where...
So is booze.
So is alcohol. Yeah, I get
Yeah,
that.
loads of things are. And like I say, I don't smoke weed. I've not got a dog in the fight, so to
Yeah.
speak. But
Yeah.
it's just, if there was a democracy, the government would have to go, oh, what, 60% of you want it to happen, it's going to happen then.
Yeah.
Fine. That's how democracy works, isn't it?
I don't think there's a party out there that wants to be the ones that legalised drugs.
The Lib Dems tried it, didn't they?
Yeah.
A couple of years ago. They ran on it, but it didn't get them anywhere.
Well, exactly.
Because all the weed smokers don't vote.
Not for them anyway.
It's not that it was all the other policies that probably didn't get them anywhere.
Yeah.
That was probably just one of...
Yeah, and the leader of the Lib Dems, and the members of the party, and everything else.
It's not doing just weed anyway, them lot.
Yeah.
They're on the white stuff, aren't they?
They all
They
are.
like to go skiing, them lot.
They all are.
Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that. Don't forget like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.